model all in all. And the topic we are looking at this time is servant leadership. You see, if you really want to be a genuine transformational leader, you also need to understand that you also need to become a servant leader. A transformational leader also need to embrace the servitude of leadership. You need to understand what it means to serve others, to put other people first before you put your own interests in the wider scope of things. So we are talking about emergent leadership, and we are specifically talking about servant leadership. And servant leadership is what I consider to be the art of true leadership. Any leader who does not have this servant attitude naturally dwelling within him or within her is not set to be called a genuine leader. Servant leadership, in my own opinion, is what I consider to be the true art of leadership, is the true heart of leadership. Now we're going to talk about the greatest leadership question. What is the greatest leadership question of all time? I'm sure you are familiar with the disciples of Jesus while they were on a particular journey, and there was an argument and a conversation that arose among them. They began to ask themselves, who among them should be the greatest? And I believe that that debate, which they started off about 2,000 years ago, is still ranging even in our own contemporary society. It is what I consider to be the greatest leadership question of all time. Who is the greatest among you? That is the question that many people are asking. Many people have asked that question before now, and even in our own present generation, many people are still asking who should be the greatest. And that is why you naturally see people always wanting to become a leader of some sort, because in our instincts as human, we have this natural instinct to be leaders. But even though we have that instinct to be leaders, we must understand that to be a genuine leader, we have to embrace the servant aspect of leadership. Now, here is what I believe to be human conception around leadership. Just like I said, we are all born with an innate desire to be leaders of some sort. We all desire leadership. That is very correct. And there is no harm, there is no harm or any error in desiring to be a leader or desiring to ascend to a leadership position. There is nothing wrong with that. What is important is that when we have such desire, we have to ensure that our motives are always pure. We are not desiring to be leaders so that we can manipulate others. We are not desiring to be leaders so that we can suppress others. We are not desiring to be leaders so that we can oppress others. We are not desiring leaders so that we can acquire the benefit of leadership for ourselves. That is not the purpose of leadership. Leadership is what every man desires. And that is why the scripture says, if any man desire the office of an overseer An overseer is a leader. Some people say a bishop, but generally an overseer is a leader. If any man desire the office of an overseer, the Bible says he has desired a good thing. So there is nothing wrong when you desire to want to become a leader. And that is why in the constitution of any country, anybody, so far as you know that you have what it takes to become one, anybody is free to aspire to become the president of any nation, at least in a democratic setting. Anybody can aspire to become a leader, and that is the natural instinct that we all have around leadership. That is, we all want to become a leader of some sort. But which type of leader do you want to be? That is the question. What type of leader do you want to be? And that is what brings me to your calling into leadership. Your calling into leadership is asking the question of the type of leader you want to be. Jesus Christ said to his disciples when they raised that question, who should be the greatest among them? He said to them, I am among you as one who serves. I am among you as one who serves. So leadership is not about who is the greatest. It is about who is serving more. That is the answer to that question. It is not about who is the greatest. Leadership is about who is serving more. It's not about who has the best resources, because that is how people have defined leadership in our contemporary times. You see some leaders, they are even more wealthy than their country. That is not the kind of leadership we are talking about here. We are talking about a leader who is ready to stoop to serve, who is ready to bend down and wash the feet of the disciples. So the goal and philosophy of a servant leader is to serve others credibly. That is always your goal. That should be your philosophy. It is to serve others with credibility. And there are two types of leadership, which I'm going to expound to us in a moment. There is one type of leadership that is called wash and basin leader. This theory was first of all propounded by John C. Maxwell, that highly revered leadership expert who is a mentor to me. He decided to clarify between these two types of leadership. Number one, the wash and basin leader. And who is the wash and basin leader? If you remember the story of Pilate in the Bible, when he was confronted with judging Jesus, whether he had committed an offense that should warrant him to die or not. And when he had finished investigating Jesus, he discovered that there was no wrong in Jesus. He discovered that Jesus has not committed any offense that should warrant for his death. But the people were saying that he should crucify him. You know what Pilate did? Pilate brought a basin of water and began to wash his hand. And he began to say, I have found no fault in this man. So I'm going to release him to you, and whatever you like, you can do with him. That is one type of leadership. And that is what John C. Maxwell called wash and basin leader. And who is a wash and basin leader? Is a selfish thinking leader. Is a leader who does not want to take responsibility. Is a leader who likes to push responsibility to other people. Is a leader who does not want to be, he doesn't want to be bothered. He doesn't want to go through the hard job of taking the hard decision. He would rather push the responsibility to other people than for him to take the decision that will resolve the matter. A wash hand basin leader is a selfish thinking leader or a self-serving leader. Pilate was not washing the hand of Jesus. He wasn't washing the hand of the people. He was washing his hand, and as he was washing his hand, he was saying to the people, I have found no offense in this man, and I have washed my hand, and I absolve myself of every allegation that you people are bringing against him. And I hand him over to you. Whatever you want, you can do to him. That is a type of leader. Another type of leader, according to John C. Maxwell, is a feet-washing leader. Feet-washing leader. And that is what I call modeling of servant leadership in practice. Also, I would like to take you to the story of Jesus. When Jesus, on the night that he was going to be betrayed, he called his disciples and he got a basin of water, and then he asked them to begin to come, and he was washing their feet. Now remember, one was washing his hand. This one was washing the feet of the disciples. Remember, in those days, they have no other means of moving around other than to trek. They use their feet to trek to all over the places, except occasionally when they take donkeys or they ride on an animal, or when they are traveling by sea, they take a ship or thereabout. But usually when they go to even long distance places, they usually go by trekking. And you can imagine the kind of dust that some of these disciples must have accumulated on their feet. And Jesus, who in fact was the creator of these disciples, still he ignored his high position and decided to wash the feet of the disciples. That is another model of leadership. And it is what I call modeling servant leadership in practice. So I ask you the question again. What type of leader are you? Are you a wash hand basin leader who loves to serve himself and not serve people? Or are you a feet washing leader who loves to serve others by washing their feet? You remember Jesus Christ saying to them, I am among you as one who serves. And we can see him really doing that in reality. You know, it takes a great humility to bend down, to wash the feet of people you know they are below you in standard. It takes a great humility. And this is what Jesus is trying to teach us, to become servant leaders. For you to really conquer your world, you need to learn how to become a servant leader. Now, so what is the purpose of leadership? It's so simple. The purpose of leadership is to enrich and enhance human progress. Nothing more, nothing less. The purpose of leadership is to enhance the progress and to enrich the progress of humanity. Not what is in it for me as a benefit. I have heard of kings, I have heard of rulers, I have heard of leaders who are even more wealthy than their countries. Where did they get those resources? They stole it from the country. That is not the kind of leader we are teaching you to become in this school of transformational leadership. We are teaching you to become leaders who is genuinely interested in serving other people. My own opinion is that every genuine leader should be able to render service for the good of humanity without hoping to be paid in return. What can you do for your community without money? What are you willing to do to benefit the people in your community without any reward for money. That is what servant leadership is all about. It is committing your resources, committing your energy, committing your passion to ensure that humanity around you are experiencing progress in every way. Now I'm going to talk about the characteristics of a servant leadership, Anywhere you see somebody parading himself as a servant leader and you can't find these characteristics in their life, please know that such a leader is not a genuine servant leader. So what are the characteristics of a servant leader? Number one, a servant leader are active listeners. Servant leaders are active listeners. They are willing, they are ready to listen to what other people have to say. They are not always wanting it their own way. They are not always engrossed in doing it their own way. It's either you do it my way or you forget about it. That is not the attitude of a servant leader. A servant leader always pays attention to what other people has to say. That is the first quality or characteristics of a servant leader. Another quality of a servant leader or characteristics of a servant leader is that they show empathy towards others. They show empathy towards others. Now, I did not say they show sympathy. Sympathy is different from empathy. When you sympathize, you are really by yourself. You are on your own and the other person is on his own. And then you are just, trying to sympathize with the person for what the person is going through. You don't really know how that thing is feeling or how that person is really feeling. But when you empathize with somebody, you are not just consoling the person for what they are going through. You are also going through the same thing they are going through. You literally put yourself in the same shoe that they are in to feel the pressure that they are feeling. That is what it means to show empathy towards others. Another quality of a servant leader is that they can be easily persuaded. They can be easily persuaded. That is another quality of a servant leader. They are not always edgy. They don't always insist. They don't always insist in having it their own way. They are ready to seek opinion from different people, from different sources, to arrive at the best possible judgment of what to do. They are easily persuaded. That is another characteristic of a servant leader. Number 4, a servant leader excels in their leadership by communicating well with their team members. Communication is another powerful quality of a servant leader. They know how to communicate. They know how to inspire people into action. They know how to convince people into completing an assignment. They know how to say it, when to say it, what to say, that will motivate and mobilize their team members for an action. Number 5, another quality of a servant leader is that they demonstrate self and environmental awareness. They demonstrate self and environmental awareness. A servant leader don't just, there are some leaders, they don't want you to know that they have weak points. But unfortunately for you, if you are a leader, the first thing your team members will notice around your life are your weakness. You may try to hide it. You may try to pretend as though those weaknesses are not there. But a genuine servant leader is not interested in hiding his weakness. He himself is self-aware of his weaknesses. So a servant leader is self-aware, and they also show environmental awareness. Number 6, a servant leader also encourage others by fostering teamwork and team building. That is number 6 quality of a servant leader. They encourage others by fostering teamwork and team building. A servant leader is not always interested in taking the shine all by himself. They believe in cooperating, in collaborating with other people. You see, life is too short to want to do it all by yourself alone. Life is too short to think you can achieve everything in life all by yourself. As a servant leader, you have to learn how to collaborate with others. It is in collaborating with others that dreams get fulfilled. It is in collaborating with others that dreams get fulfilled. So I want to encourage you, as you take these lessons, to desire and to work towards learning how to work with people. You see, if you don't know how to work with people, you will be limited in what you can achieve in life. John Maxwell will always say, one is too insignificant to achieve great things. You need people around you to achieve success. You cannot do your vision all by yourself alone. You need people around you to support you. And that is what a great servant leader does. They foster teamwork and they also encourage team building. Number 7 is like it, but with a little emphasis. A servant leader also encourage or they demonstrate strong commitment towards the growth of team members. In other words, a servant leader always put the interest of growth and capacity of the team members as number 1 priority. As a servant leader, you are not just growing yourself, you are also building people around you. You are not growing yourself, but you are also building people around you. That is what a servant leader does. They enjoy building people around them. They enjoy unleashing the leadership potential in other people. And last but not the least, characteristics of a servant leader is that a servant leader demonstrates strong stewardship and accountability. I have seen some people who doesn't want to be accountable to anybody. You see, in life, you always have to be accountable to people. You are not just accountable to God. You are accountable to God, you are accountable to yourself, and you are also accountable to people. And one of the problems we have in Africa is that our leaders don't want to be accountable to us. They are not even accountable to God. They are not even accountable to themselves. They are just reckless in everything that they do. But if you want to be a celebrated servant leader, you have to demonstrate strong stewardship and also show accountability to people that you are leading. People, there must not be hidden things in your cupboard. There must not be skeleton in your cupboard. You must lay everything bare before them. Now we are going to talk about the preeminent principles of servant leadership. The preeminent principles of servant leadership. Now, so what are the preeminent principles of a servant leader? There are four main preeminent principles that guide the operation of a servant leader. And I'm going to mention them now. Number one, a servant leader encourages diversity of thinking. A servant leader encourages diversity of thinking. They are not just interested in hearing what they are wanting to hear. You know, there are some leaders, they only want to hear what they like to hear. When you begin to tell them something that is different from what they like to hear, there will be a problem. But a servant leader welcomes other people's idea. He welcomes other people's way of thinking. He likes to embrace the perspective and the lenses through which other people are viewing things. That is one preeminent principle about servant leadership. Another preeminent principle of servant leadership is that servant leadership creates a culture of trust. Servant leadership creates a culture of trust. If your followers cannot trust you, then you are not a genuine servant leader. In fact, the reason why people trust you as a leader is because it's a testament that you are a servant leader. When followers trust you, or when your team member trusts you, it is because people recognizes you as a genuine servant leader. Another preeminent principle of servant leadership, number 3, is that a servant leader possesses an unselfish thinking. He's not just looking for his own idea to be the idea to carry the day. He's not just looking for the idea that will suit his own purpose. He's not just looking for an idea that will suit his own intent and ideology. He possesses an unselfish thinking. He allows everybody to bring what they have to the table. That is another preeminent principle of a servant leadership. Now, the number 4th preeminent principle of a servant leadership is that a servant leader helps to develop leadership potential in other people. That is what they do. They help to develop leadership potentials in other people. So, as a leader, one of your job is to build people, is to develop people. If you are not developing people, then you are not going to be effective as a leader. Your leadership is not going to be effective if you are not developing people. For you to continue to experience success in your leadership as a servant leader, you must continue to contribute to the growth of other people around you. Now, let's talk about the failure of leadership. Whenever you see the failure of leadership, and you know that at the base of that failure is the entitlement and inheritance mentality. When a leader begins to feel that he is entitled to be the leader, or it is his own birthright to be a leader, then you will begin to see the failure of leadership. And that is why when you see people who have entitlement and inheritance mentality, when they eventually become leaders, they contribute next to zero to the development of the community that they are leading, or to the society, or to the organization that they are leading, because they believe that position is their right. They believe it is their birthright. So they don't feel any sense of contribution to that group or to that organization. And that is what I call, that is the behavior that I believe constitutes to the failure of leadership: entitlement and inheritance mentality. I know there are people here who don't have such mentality. And I pray that you don't have such mentality, because when you have that kind of mentality, it will really it will really place a limitation on your leadership ability. Now we've come to the end of the class. If you have any question, you are free to ask so that we can try to work together. If you have a question, please go ahead.
Hello, good evening. Ido?
Yeah, go ahead.
Good evening. Okay, thank you. My question is on the leadership trait.
Sorry.
Huh?
Go ahead.
Hello?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yes, the wash hand basin leadership.
Yeah.
Now, my question lies in that aspect. Going back to the story, to the case study you use, the story used as a case study, the pilot story.
Yeah.
The pilot actually did the will of the people, but actually washed his own hands of the sin being committed.
Yeah.
Now, this is where my question lies. We as a leader, we are meant to serve, right?
Yeah.
We are meant to serve the people.
Yeah.
Now, we know this is the right thing to do.
Yeah.
But the people saying this is what they want. Yeah. If we are faced with this kind of situation, what should we do?
Yeah. As a leader, when you are serving people, that doesn't mean you should serve people in error. That doesn't mean we should join. The Bible says we should not join the multitude to commit wickedness. So when people are going on the path of wickedness, we cannot, in the name of wanting to serve them, join them in that direction. That was the fault of Pilate. The people brought a case to you, you have investigated the man, and you knew that there was no wrongdoing in the man. There is nothing that says you should not, that you cannot discharge and acquit him. But still, because you don't want to take that responsibility, that is a failure on his part. Because if he had taken that decision, there is nothing they could have done. That is not because he has taken the decision in the best interest of justice. But he didn't take the decision. Rather than for him to take the decision, he decided to push the decision over to the people. And this is what makes you a leader. When people begin to push things around, when the buck comes to your table, it must stop at your table. The buck must stop at your table. You as a leader, you must not keep on passing the buck like any other people. The buck must stop at your table. I hope I've answered you.
Yes.